is Dick, WB to JPQ. Located in Eden, New York, the garden spot in New York State, about 25 miles south of Buffalo. I'm with Scott, WB2BLT. And Roger, KO4QMM. We'll be bringing you the East Coast Reflector TechNet. Number 634. Vicky has the night off tonight. As always, we start out with our team members and see if they have anything that they would like to report to the group. No silent keys pops up tonight. We will see if anybody has any one that they would like to have remembered tonight. Then after that, Joe's here with the Celebrity of the Week, 82TFB. Then we'll take new users to this net. If you've never checked into this net before, we'll like to get you up at the top and let you get in early. And we'll take stations with questions. Before we go any further, I want to tell you we're not going to do in and out stations tonight. If you miss your call districts, you're done. We are not going to do in and out stations tonight. Or I'm sorry, not in and out. Not in and out. I had in and out written up on the top. Sorry, Scott. We're not going to do late and miss tonight. If you missed your call district, you missed it for the night. Any team members have anything that they would like to report to the group tonight? The VE3BZ. Oh, good evening, Kevin. VE3BZ. Hey, good evening, Dick, and everyone on the net. Kevin, VE3BZ here with tonight's Swap and Shop listings for this week. I have a couple. Starting off, Charles, KC6UFM in Guatai, California, has a SEMO Solus Lite mobile hotspot for sale. No SIM card required, works on most US LTE carriers. Service plans start at $6 per month. Has a USB-C chargeable, rechargeable internal battery, supports 2.4 and 5G Wi-Fi. It is very small, fits inside a shirt pocket. Used only twice and is no longer needed. Works great for portable or mobile nodes if you do not want to use your cell phone data. Asking $40, shipped in the lower 48, and Charles only accepts PayPal. And you can contact Charles by email at kc6ufm@gmail.com. And next up is WB9CSP. Has a Yaesu FTM 1802M mobile radio and would like to trade it for either an Yaesu FTM 7800 or 7900. The 1802 works and as it should, but has a shredded mic cord, but the mic still works. And you can contact email is wb9csp@amateurwire.org or by telephone at 347-395-0930. And that is all I have this evening, Dick. If you have anything for sale, trade, and want, just go to eastcoastreflector.com, contact ECR and SwapNet submissions, or email me at ve3bz@rogers.com. All right, before I time it out, back to net, VE3BZ. Oh, you had 15 seconds, Kevin. I'm sure you're looking at the monitor. You had a whole 15 seconds. Yep, that's why I cut it short, but anyway, I was done, so carry on. VE3.
3BZ.
See, that didn't seem to reset right away. Any other team members have anything that they would like to report this evening? Hearing nothing, I just would like to make one announcement about our youth set. As was mentioned last week, we changed our format a little bit. We actually, last week, for those of you that were with us, we actually had a third-party young lady, 12 years old, as third-party do part of the youth set. So we're encouraging people, third-party and, of course, licensed youth, but to come in and be a part of our youth set at 8 o'clock on Fridays. What we are starting is come in at 7 o'clock, an hour before the net, come into the Zoom room. If you're a youth, bring your parents, bring a parent with you, and come into the Zoom room and meet the youth that are in there, maybe break the ice a little bit. And might help you to get on the air as third party and at least check in. We had quite a number last week, and I think it's going to work, but we need everybody's participation. So come early on Friday night, come into the East Coast Reflector Zoom room and say hello to us. One last call. Anybody else, any other team member have anything to report tonight?
This is K4KU.
Well, K4KU. Good evening, Jason.
Hey, good evening, Dick, and everybody else on the TechNet. I'd just like to remind everybody that we have the open mic net tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. You're also welcome to join us in the Zoom room.
All right, Jason, not sure if you stood by or if you dropped off, and I did not tell you guys the question. Our question tonight is, do you belong to a ham club? Do you belong to a radio club? Do you belong to a radio club, Jason? We'll put you in. I'll go up to Kevin and get his answer, and we'll. But that's our question for tonight. Do you belong to a radio club? Go ahead, Jason.
Hey, Dick, sorry about that. My hotspot cut out for a minute here, but yes, I belong to the Atlanta Radio Club, and with that, I'm having some internet issues, so I'll send it back to net control.
Right. Well, thank you. How about you, Kevin? I'm sorry I didn't get to the question before you came up. E3BZ, do you belong to a radio club?
Yes, I do. South Georgian Bay Amateur Radio Club. Thanks. C3BZ.
Thank you, Kevin. Somehow I remembered something about South Bay or something like that. We, no silent keys fortunately popped up from our database. Does anyone have a silent key from the East Coast Reflector family that they would like to have remembered here this evening? Well, that's good. That's what we like to hear. I guess it's all yours, Joe. KD2TFB with the Celebrity of the Week.
Hello, everyone. I would say I belong to the Radio Association of Western New York, otherwise known as Ronnie, and the Lancaster Amateur Radio Club. That's the only two so far at the time. Thanks go out to Ross, KB2TIN, Kilo Bravo 2, Tango India November, for pointing me to a YouTube video featuring 20 amateurs, including this week's celebrity. Doug was born on May 5th, 1960 in Binghamton, but lived most of his childhood in Windsor, New York, and considers it his hometown. He graduated from Windsor Central High School in 1978. He earned a Bachelor of Science in Applied Science and Engineering from West Point in 1983. Achieving the rank of second lieutenant in the Army Infantry. The following year, he entered flight school and graduated at the top of his flight class and was designated as an Army aviator in September of that same year. Among other things, Doug served in the Pacific Theater as a combat aviation section leader, platoon leader, company executive officer, battalion operations officer, and commander of an air cavalry troop in the 9th U.S. Cavalry. In 1992, he earned a Master of Science in Aerospace Engineering from Georgia Tech, with research in the areas of hypersonic and high-temperature gas dynamics, flight stability and control, and robotics. He is a graduate of Class 104 from the U.S. Naval Test Pilot School and was subsequently assigned as an experimental test pilot with the Army Aviation Technical Test Center. And so I don't time things out, I'll be right back. We have many fine men and women who have similarly distinguished themselves in our military, but Doug is rarer still. He was selected by NASA in 1998 to be an astronaut. The retired colonel has accumulated more than 178 days in space. He flew on STS-120 in 2007, and in 2010 he served as flight engineer for Expedition 24 and commander for Expedition 25. During this mission, Doug conducted 3 unplanned spacewalks to replace a faulty ammonia pump module. This week's Celebrity Call Sign of the Week is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Bravo Oscar Charlie, or KF5BOC, belonging to Technician Class Doug Wheelock. The information for this episode was provided mainly from his biography on the NASA.gov website. This week's episode is in honor of the recently deceased Apollo 8 and Apollo 13 astronaut Jim Lovell. Not an amateur radio operator, but a historically significant person nonetheless. Kilo Delta 2 Tango Fox Bravo back to net control.
Well, thank you, Joe, for enlightening us as you always do every week. Who do I have that's new to this net, that has never checked into this net before? Stations have never checked into this net before. Your call signs twice. This is Dick, WB2JPQ.
November 9, Kilo Bravo Victor, first time check-in, N9KV.
Kilo Oscar 4, Kilo Sierra Golf. Kilo Oscar 4, Kilo Sierra Golf, Willie. Let me hold up for a minute. The last station, Willie. KO4KSG. Willie, unfortunately you come up red on our monitor here tonight on our log sheet indicating that you have checked into this net before, so I'm going to have to ask you to call in when we get to the fours, which will be last tonight. We're starting with the 5th call district, 5 through 4s. 4s were first last week, so of course they're last this week. Just before that, there was it N9KC? I need a correction on the K9, the suffix. Kilo Charlie, or was it Kilo Victor?
Kilo Bravo Victor. November 9, Kilo Bravo Victor.
Well, that makes it all better. Thanks, sir. And then just before, there was a KR4. The KR4, please.
Kilo Romeo 4 Foxtrot Romeo Romeo.
FRR. Okay, Thomas. Newton Grove, North Carolina. Let me go up to Charles, Mount Pleasant. KE0IHD. Good evening to you. Welcome to the net. I see you do have an email address on your QRZ page, so you will be receiving a welcome letter from us. Our question tonight is, do you belong to a radio club? And welcome.
KE0IHD, Southeast Iowa, Mount Pleasant, Iowa. I do not belong to a club of any. I have a club nearby, but I do not participate in it. Just lack of time and short on time.
Well, we're just trying to see how many of our TechNet users belong to a club. As most of you know, as Vicki does the magazine, the answers are published every month in the magazine. All the answers to Morning Brew questions and TechNet questions and the like. Let's move on to Thomas, new to the system, and I see you do not have an email address, Thomas, so you might want to add one on your QRZ.com page so we can send you a welcome letter. KR4FRR, I didn't think there was two FRRs in this world, but I guess there is. Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, there are two FRRs. I don't know, I kind of like my call sign. I was telling somebody that it's a shame I didn't go to ECU with all the R's up in my call sign, but it makes it easy to recall. I just got my ticket a couple weeks ago, and right this second I'm struggling getting my signal out to repeaters, so I'm on Echo Link right now. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting some equipment sometime where I can actually use the regular radios, but for now the Echo Link will do. And I do not belong to a club. Like I said, I've only had my license for a few weeks, and I'm looking and planning on attending a meeting in the near future. And I'll give it back to Nick, KR4FRR.
All right, thanks, Thomas. Well, I was kidding around about the FRR. One of our system facilitators is KO4FRR. That's what I meant by there is two FRRs in this world. I see you're coming in through one of David's repeaters, which is not always connected to the East Coast Reflector. But if you connect to ECR 9050, ECR 9050 is our Echo Link conference server. All one word, ECR 9050. You can get into the East Coast Reflector anytime you like. So let's move on to N9KBV. Good evening to you.
Good evening. I do belong to the Orange Amateur Radio Club here in Southeast Texas, and I'm a member there, and I'm connecting to you through the Beaumont repeater, and that would be W5APX. But my call is November 9 Kilo Bravo Victor, and I've been a member since earlier this year.
Great. Nice to have you with us tonight. You're new to the net, of course. Not new to the East Coast Reflector, though. We didn't come up new, but new to this net. Who else do we have that's never checked into this net before? If you've never checked in, call signs twice, please. nothing. Did see the Echolink conference server come up. Last call for new stations that have never checked into this net before. Please give me your call sign twice. Trying to see who that was. Nope, I guess it was nobody. Was there a K? Nope, I guess not. One more time. Last call for stations new to this net. If you've never checked into this net before, your call sign twice, please.
KD3, EFB, Kilo Delta, Bravo, Foxtrot, Echo,
KQ4GKO, Kilo Quebec 4, Golf Kilo Oscar. I don't think I've checked into this net before.
Kilo Delta 8, Zulu Sierra Kilo.
We got you, Keith, KD8ZSK. And John, yes, I think you checked in last week. I don't know if you remember that or not, KQ4GKO, so I'll have to ask you, if you would please, to come in with the fourth call district at the end of the net. KD3BFE on Echolink. We saw the Echolink node come up. We didn't hear any audio, but we did the last time. Good evening to you, sir.
Howdy. Yeah, I had an issue. I don't know what was going on. I restarted Echolink and voila. Yeah, doing pretty good. This is my fifth net today. I'm surprised. I did 5 nets now. That's pretty cool. I like doing satellite stuff with my homemade Yagi antenna I've been talking about a little bit. I made it out of PVC measuring tape and hose clamps, a little bit of electric tape and a wire with the connector on it, of course. But put that sucker together and put it on my NOVNA, got the SWR at 1.25, I think. So it's pretty good. It does great. I've been doing NOAA satellite with it, retrieving the on my computer with that antenna on my SDR console I use, and that also gives me satellite stuff on there. So I've been doing NOAA satellites and then decoding the audio file that I saved to the computer from it and decoded it to an image and get the picture that it's getting averted. Pretty fun. I can't wait to get my 70-centimeter antenna built and then I don't have a full duplex radio, but I'll use 2 radios, what the heck, and do some ISS and see if I can't get a few states. One day, maybe I'll have all 50. Talk to somebody in each state. That would be pretty interesting. Anyway, I'm going to be quiet, turn it back to net control. KD3 BFE.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And before you go, do you belong to a radio club? That's our question tonight. I didn't ask you, but that's our question for everyone tonight.
Negative. I do not belong to any radio club currently. I would like to get more involved though. That's absolutely, I definitely love radio. I run a GMRS net, Tuesdays at 7:30. I didn't do it this time, but I was on it. And on tomorrow I'm going to be running another net on GMRS, Charlotte City. But that's a no. I don't belong to any club. KD3 BFE.
Well, thank you. How about Keith? KD8ZSK. Good evening to you, sir.
Well, thank you. Good Amateur Radio Club. They're both spoken as Lark. Lark and Lark. One Lark is LAR for the Livonia Amateur Radio Club. The second Lark is Livonia, is Livingston Amateur Radio Club, club with a K. And with that, this is Keith, KD8ZSK, portable from Mink Island in St. Lawrence Seaway.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Keith. It's nice to see the WB2, what is that, OOY 146-700 repeater connected up here the last week or so, bringing activity to the system, which we certainly like. What else do we have? New users to this net. If you've never checked into this net, your call sign twice. 26 past the hour, this is Dick, WB2JPQ.
W3ICQ. W3ICQ. I don't think I've been on this net before. This is Bob.
WB1AKQ, Whiskey Bravo 1, Alpha Kilo Quebec, and this is Pam.
WB1AKQ and W3ICQ. No, Bob? Leesburg, Florida. You have not been on this net before. Good evening to you, Bob, and you belong to a radio club, and welcome.
Thanks for the welcome, Dick. I did when I first studied for my license, but I do not any longer. But I did belong to the Leesburg Area Radio Club, and a great group of folks. But I do not right now. Back to you.
Oh, thank you, Bob. We got a lot of friends in that club. They have a repeater. It's well, you're not on it, but they do have a repeater connected here full time to the ECR. WB1AKQ, Boynton Beach, Florida.
Good evening. My name is Pam. I am a member of a club up in Georgia, the Gwinnett Amateur Radio Society. I moved down to Florida a couple of years ago, and I'm still trying to check out a couple of clubs down here.
So do you currently belong to a club that's a no?
Currently belong to a club up in Georgia, the Gwinnett Amateur Radio Society, GARS.
Thank you, Pam, from Boynton Beach. Nice to have you with us, and you're coming in on the W4MLT repeater in Fort Lauderdale. Thanks for being here. You're new to the system. It looks like you have a current email address, so the system will be sending you a welcome letter. Probably sometime after midnight, I think the system kicks them out. Who else do I have new to this net?
KI4NHP. KI4NHP.
KI4NHP. Anyone else other than KI4NHP? There's a couple key-ups, but we didn't hear anybody.
Whiskey 3, Mike Foxtrot Romeo.
That was Whiskey 3, Mike Foxtrot Romeo. We'll get you in. Let me go to up the voice. KI4NHP from Tennessee. Good evening. You belong to a radio club.
Just joined the second club, so I guess I'm greedy at joining 2 clubs. But they're a fine bunch of people, and I do enjoy being with the group.
Well, great. Nice to have you with us. I heard John a little bit earlier today, talking to a few people. W3MFR, York, Pennsylvania. Good evening, Richard.
Good evening there. Sorry about earlier. I had multiple radios on and multiple signals coming through, so I was getting a reverb. Short answer, no, I do not belong to any radio clubs at the moment, but I have 2 that I am looking to join within the next 2 months. So back to net control. Thank you.
No, it is. Thanks for being there. Do you go by Richard, or do you have a nickname? Being first in, we have the luxury of giving you a nickname.
Like that. All right. So my first name is Richard, but I actually go by Aaron. Alpha, Romeo, Oscar, November.
Oh, you will be known as Aaron from now on. Thanks for being there. Who else do we have? Boy, we got quite a number of new to this net. That's good to see. Who else do we have new to this net?
W2 Arctic.
The W2ORT, I guess it was. Boy, it was good year, Scott. I wouldn't have got that myself. Wow. W2ORT. You were kind of quick keying in. Good evening. I think you got a MDC 1200 or something on your tail as well. Good evening, Matthew.
Good evening. Yes, I do have DC on my radio. I'm using a Motorola Apex radio and talking to you through a analog repeater patched through to the reflector. Yeah, new to the net, and I was just flipping through channels and, spinning going through the scan list, and I think I caught the end, which was talking about what, if any, ham clubs that we're part of. I'm a part of one remote net called Flag and Torch Society. That's about it's a lot of veterans, but also a lot of civilians. We do a lot of education, stuff like that, and looking to join some local stuff after I just recently moved from New Jersey to New York. W2RT Friday, back to net.
Thank you, Matthew. We'll make this last call for users to this net. Last call for new users to this net.
November 5 United, X-ray, take it.
5UXT, I believe that was very, very heavy audio. Was that N5UXT? Was that N5UXT and I believe that was on D-Star? Oh, nothing heard. Let's go to stations with an amateur radio related question. If you have an amateur radio related question, please give me your call sign choice. We'll try to find you an answer here this evening. This is Dick, along with Scott, W2BLT, and Roger, KO4QMM, at 36 past the hour. Stations with an amateur radio related question.
November 1, Whiskey, Echo, Bravo, and 1, WEB.
Well, Mr. Webb from Collierville, Tennessee, N1WEB. I'm sure you've heard our question tonight. You belong to a radio club. You answer ours, and we'll take a question from you. How's that?
Well, Dick, that sounds like a pretty good deal. The best deal I've had all day long. Okay, yeah, you can put me down as a yes for that question. I belong to two clubs, and I participate more in one than the other, but you can only do so much. And my question for tonight really draws from the article that our antenna farmer had in the monthly ECR news magazine this month about feed lines. It got me thinking a little bit about the connectors I use from my feed line to my matching transformer or balun or whatever you're using to connect to a end-fed antenna. I use PL259s and SO239 connectors, which are pretty much standard for that type of connection. And I was wondering, I make connections and disconnections about once a week on these things, and I'm wondering over time, how many cycles of usage do these connectors really hold up before they start to loosen up or maybe just lose some of the connectivity and start to create more loss? So that's my question for tonight.
KC6UFM. A good question, Webb. Would have never thought about that one. I've had connectors that I've used for 60 years, 50 years. What do you think, Charles?
Good evening, Dick, and everyone on the TechNet tonight. This is Charles, KC6UFM. And, well, yeah, that is a very, very good question. Since you're talking about an end-fed, I'm assuming we're talking HF. Typically, you don't use those at VHF and above, but in any event, as far as the PL259 and SO239 connectors go, as long as you're buying good quality connectors, you know, not the cheapy ones or anything like that, they will have a lifespan of about 1,500 make-break cycles. So you should not have a problem with that unless you're really changing them a lot. Some of the cheap ones that I've seen, they can only handle maybe 50 to 100, and then they start loosening up. Myself, just personally, this is probably not the best thing in the world to do, but when I feel one, where I've got a cheap connector and I feel it getting loose, I just take a little small pocket screwdriver, put down inside the SO239 and kind of bend the fingers back towards the middle a little bit, and it lasts a little longer that way. But I say if you're buying good quality connectors, you probably don't have anything to worry about, Webb, and unless you are really taking them apart and putting them back together a whole lot. So back over to you, Dick, KC6UFM.
Well, thanks, Charles. And, hey, good question, Webb. Was that the answer you were looking for, Webb?
Thank you, Dick, and thank you, Charles. Yeah, that answer's great. I'm assuming that these connectors that I'm using are at the end of some DXC400 from DX Engineering, and they're also tied into the matching transformer on a chameleon hybrid type antenna. And so I think the quality of those connectors should be pretty good. So based on the math that I did quickly from Charles' answer, I've got about 28 years if I connect and disconnect once per week. Not quite the 50 to 60 years that you were referring to, Dick, but I'll take that math, and I think that's a really good point about the quality of the connector. So, yeah, great answer, and I appreciate it. This is N1 WEB, back to the net.
All right, Webb. Well, I'm always the one when you go to a Hamfest. Just watch next time you go to a Hamfest. You'll see all those dirty connectors and adapters especially. They'll be all dirty and discolored. And everybody will go for the nice shiny ones, the cheap ones, the poor ones. Take the dirty ones. They're the silver-plated ones. You can't beat them. Thanks, Charles. Who else do we have? Stations with an amateur radio-related question.
For ZYQ to check in and have a question for the guy with the connectors.
ZYQ, you're quick keyed. We missed your prefix. Give us a call sign and go ahead and ask your question.
Kilo Echo 4, Zulu Yankee Quebec, KE4, ZYQ, Joe in Clinton Township, Michigan. And I was going to ask the gentleman that asked about the connectors, is he speaking of soldered or non-soldered connectors and the lifespan of those and how they're put together? Back to that, KE4, ZYQ.
You know, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't like... that's a good question, Charles. You're probably talking the good PL259s and, of course, SO239s, that the good solder ones. What experience have you had with the crimp-ons?
Thank you, Dick. Yeah, this is Charles, KC6UFM. Yeah, the crimp-on type, this is based purely on empirical evidence. I don't think that they hold up as well as the solder-on type. However, they do meet the same mil-spec standards as the solder-on. So the official word is that they will last just as long, but again, my experience in practice is that they do not. Back over to you, Dick, KC6UFM.
Well, thank you, Charles. And Joe, while we got you, thanks for your comment or your question. And Joe, do you belong to a radio club, so we get you logged in here tonight?
Well, net control, this is Kilo Echo 4, Zulu Yankee, Quebec. At the present time, I do not officially belong to a club. I originally did back in COVID because I was given an honorary membership for involvement with the COVID Monday through Friday Reg 2 for the Hazel Park group, and that was a very much an honor, and very, very grateful for that. One thing about soldered PL connectors and all, I do solder. I don't do any just pressure ones, just solder. And a good thing to check the continuity of the coax or the jumper cable, whatever, and to take a meter and check if there's any grounding or anything.
always good to do once in a while, if not initially, let alone once in a while. That's what I've done, and I've had some good jumpers and good coaxes so far, knock on wood. Back to net, KE4ZYQ. Oh, absolutely, Joe. You cannot put a PL2, or you cannot put a coax connector on without some sort of a continuity checker. That is a must. That goes right along with the connector. Thanks for your comment. Anybody else? Amateur radio related question.
W8 AWD, Whiskey 8, Alpha Whiskey Delta.
Good evening to Austin, W8 AWD.
Good evening, Nick, and everyone on the net. I've recently become interested in DAPnet ham paging systems, and once we get our tower up, I'm thinking about putting up a paging repeater. And I was just wondering if anyone's ever successfully set one up, and what kind of work goes into it.
Did you say a paging?
Yes, that is correct. It's a ham paging system. It's called DAPnet, Delta, DAPNET.
Ready, we got you now, Austin. You're kind of noisy. You missed it at the beginning. Well, you can feel the question. Somebody mentioned that or asked a question on that a few weeks back. That was about all I had actually heard about it, but who would like to answer Austin's question?
K4FXC.
Well, good evening, David. Good to hear you.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. And I'll mention I am a member of numerous clubs, including an officer in a couple, so it just definitely helps support the local and regional clubs in the area and repeaters. Oh boy, DAPnet. I won't get started on this, but paging in general is one-way communications. It is strictly one-way communications, and Part 97 does not allow that. There is a lot of debate about this out there right now, but the long and short of it is that is paging services trying to use amateur radio for strictly one-way communications, own demand. It's not something like it's where it's for information for the general public, like playing radio news line or something like that. One of the services where it's of interest to all hams. Part 97 does not allow broadcasting, and that's just the long and short of it. So I don't recommend that, but I know some folks are playing with it. Anyway, my 2 cents, K4FXC.
I agree with you 100% on that, David. I was thinking back in the days of when the world was full of paging transmitters, and it was intermodality because of all knobs to the right with these paging transmitters, no filtering, and into a high gain antenna, and we got rid of all that stuff. Let's not start it again. Anyway, I'm sure, Austin, that's not the answer that you wanted. Well, we heard a noise burst, but if you could answer our question, do you belong to a radio club? We'll try to get an answer out of you, Austin.
No, at this time I don't belong to an amateur radio club, but maybe in the future if I have more time I can. W8AWD.
We got your no. Who else has got a question tonight? Amateur radio related question.
Golf 1 November Yankee Sierra 431 NYS.
Uh, 4G1 NYS. 4G1 NYS. Good evening to you, and your question, please.
Okay, thank you very much. This for Golf 1 November Yankee Sierra. My name is Steven from here in the Philippines. It's already morning here, 9 minutes before 9. My amateur radio related question is, especially with lightning arrestors, are those lightning arrestors the same? Are those that I always hear about when there are lightning strikes that hit those control towers in airports? Because I'm curious about this material. Does the amateur radio community have the same type of material of lightning arrestors, or are they really sophisticated ones are for airports only? Because practically all those RF transmissions are required on hold during thunderstorms because of the risk of lightning. I'm curious about it. Does the amateur radio community have good quality lightning arrestors, or are those limited to airports only?
KC6 UFM.
Right, Charles, I sent it over to you. Well, yeah, Stephen, I let Charles answer, but I don't know what you mean by airports, but like anything else, there's good, bad, and indifferent. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, thank you, Dick. Yeah, Stephen, I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this. It kind of depends on how much you want to spend. For an airport or a broadcast television or radio station, it's extremely important for them to stay on the air. Their transmitters and receivers, their radio equipment in general, priced in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. So it makes sense for them to spend, a couple $100,000 on lightning suppression systems. For a ham radio station, even if you go out and buy top-of-the-line stuff, you're going to have maybe a $10,000 transmitter sitting there. Would it make sense to spend $100,000 on a suppression system to protect a $10,000 radio? So the answer is basically you could do it. You could certainly buy that equipment that they're using at broadcast stations or, as you say, at airports for the control towers and such. But it's probably just not going to be cost effective. But the big thing I want to caution you about, Stephen, is you kept talking, as most people do, about lightning arresters. Well, there's no such thing as a lightning arrestor. There's a device to mitigate the impact. But, the ones that you can buy for reasonable amounts of money, the suppression systems for ham radio equipment, they will protect you from nearby strikes. In other words, voltages that are induced by a lightning strike that hits somewhere close to you. But if it hits your antenna in your tower, that thing is going to fail so fast that you wouldn't even be able to see it fail. It would just fail and let all that high voltage right into the system. So they don't arrest lightning. They simply try to mitigate it. So back over to you, Dick, KC6 UFM. K4SXC.
705 UXT. Go ahead, David. I think that was UXT again. Your audio is very distorted, UXT. Go ahead, David. Or UXT, whichever that was.
Yeah, K4FXC. Exactly what Charles said. I mean, lightning suppression systems, they come down to how much you want to spend on them to protect the equipment involved, and certainly some very good ones out there basically will protect the equipment virtually 100%, meaning that rarely does gear fail when hit by direct strikes, even with lightning. However, one thing I wanted to mention was that there are two, for ham-grade lightning suppression systems, aside from the typical stuff you want to do, like making sure you've got your grounds bonded and making sure that you've got a ground dissipation system to dissipate the energy, one big thing you can do is make sure you select the proper suppressor to put in line. Reset. And by proper suppressor, I mean there are basically two different types of suppressors you'll find on the market. You'll find one that is called DC blocked, meaning that if you measure the center pin from the input to the output, you get an open circuit with if you measure with a voltmeter, an ohm meter, and you'll find DC pass. So you'll find ones that if you measure it from input to output, you get 0 ohms, or if you measure it input to output, it looks like an open circuit. Those that are DC blocked typically provide the best results for amateur gear, particularly where you've got receivers involved, which are sensitive to very low voltages and could be damaged by nearby strikes. The reason for that is there's a capacitor in there that blocks the input to the output and lets high frequency RF or RF energy like you'd have on your radio flow through, but it keeps the lightning from flowing through. And then there's a gas tube on the input side or on the antenna side that when the voltage gets high enough, it shorts that gas tube and it shorts it to ground. So it keeps that high voltage from flowing through the whole circuit, until the gas tube can fire. Whereas those that are not DC blocked typically allow the voltage to continue to rise on the radio up until the gas tube fires, and that could be high enough to damage a receiver. So Polyphaser makes them. A number of companies, a lot of companies make them out there. But if you're selecting, if you don't have a reason to have DC passing through, like you've got, some type of remote powered device out there at the antenna, like an antenna switch or something like that, then make sure to choose the DC blocked style of suppressor. And Polyphaser is a great brand. I have got pretty much entirely all Polyphasers, and they work spectacularly well, in my opinion, and fairly inexpensive. K4FXC.
Thank you, David, and hope that answers your question, Stephen. And before you go, Stephen, do you belong to a radio club?
Okay, thank you very much for all the answers of our pals here. They are great, and someday when I have much of the financial wherewithal to do it, then maybe I could take some of that advice that I got. For my answer to your question, I do belong to a radio club. Our club is called Delta Zulu 1, Romeo Echo Charlie, BZ1 REC, the Radio Engineering Circle Incorporated. That's it for me, Chad. Hopefully, I really had a great one answering my amateur radio-related question. Thanks, everybody. I'll send it back to the control. 4K1 and NYLF.
Get ready for the Montgomery County Aries net right here in 1 minute.
Well, looks like the announcements are going out the wrong port on that one. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for reporting our net from the Philippines. This is Dick, WAB2JPQ, pretty much at the top of the hour. Stations with an amateur radio-related question. Call signs twice. Victor Echo 3, Tango Charlie Sierra. BE3, TCS. Kevin Winger, Dick. November 5 United X-Ray Tango. That's November 5 United X-Ray Tango in New Orleans with a comment on the lightning protection. Hi, Angelo. I don't know if that was you before on D-Star, but it was the UXT, but I'm not sure it was you. And Tim, in Windsor, hang on 1 second. Angelo's got a comment. Angelo, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, Dick, to you and everybody on the net. We've had a ham over here in the New Orleans, greater New Orleans area, who's developed a program and a piece of hardware that runs off a Raspberry Pi that will support 4 antenna connections, and it uses the weather radar to determine if there is lightning within the area, and it will separate the antennas from the rigs. It has a little motor in there. His call sign is Kilo 5 Oscar Zulu. Kilo 5 Oscar Zulu, and you can have 4 separate antennas. And this little Raspberry Pi connects to some sort of weather station, and I've seen it work. And if it detects lightning within a 10-mile radius, which you can actually set that radius, it will automatically disengage the antennas totally far enough to where that current won't cross over. And I thought that was a very interesting device. I have to admit, it is a little pricey, and I'm not going to talk about prices here. But if you're very interested, the call sign would be Kilo 5 Oscar Zulu. And he has sold many of these units. He's tested them, he's beta tested them, and several of the club members. I'm not part of that club, but have used them, and they work extremely well. So, especially when you're not around, and you know, the only thing about those gas-fed polyphasers, when they blow out, you have to get the new. Sorry about that, I think I timed it out. My mistake. But the only thing is about those polyphasers, if they do get hit, you do have to get the new tubes. With this, it automatically disengages the antennas. So that's all I have, Dick. I thought it was kind of interesting that topic was brought up, and that was the first thing that came to mind. Back to Nicole. This is N5 UXT, Angelo in New Orleans, 73, and I'm not a member of any club. Over.
Well, it was an interesting story, Angelo. Thank you for sharing it with us. I was not aware of it. K5OZ. I'll have to see what he's got to offer someday. Just not that I would really be interested, but you never know. And thanks for the connection there from New Orleans 24/7. We do appreciate it. Station. Oh, I know. I've got to go to Tim. I'm sorry, Tim in Windsor, VE3TCS. Your question, Tim. Evening from East Windsor. It's still Stevie here. That last gentleman's comment was worth the time to listen to. Anyhow, what I've been considering lately is perhaps getting a eaves trough antenna system. I have continuous eaves trough around my house, and I'm wondering if anybody's ever dealt with it, and will I have to cut the eaves trough and to electrically separate it into 2 halves. Thanks for taking my call here, Dick. Back to net. Yep, I see Charles come up. I'll turn it over to Charles Tim in a minute, but I'll tell you, quite a number of years ago on the TechNet here, we had a gentleman come up and ask that same question, and we simply told him to connect the center of his coax to his downspout and put a ground rod in the ground. He came back several years later and said, you know what, Dick, I'm still using that, and it works fine. I did absolutely nothing. Of course, he's using a matchbox, but Charles, go ahead.
Thank you, Dick. Yeah, that's effectively what I was going to say there. I really don't think, Tim, that you need to go out and buy some special fancy system because all you really need to do is get a ground connection, drive a ground route out there and run some nice strapping up to the feed point, connect the shield of your coax to that, and then connect the center conductor firmly bonded to your guttering system. Make sure that you go down the guttering, if you, unless you have seamless guttering, make sure that at every seam that they are bonded together very, very well, and then run that through a tuner and load into it. You don't need to buy anything from some company. They're selling you something that you can do for the price of a few sheet metal screws and a ground rod. So that will work well for you. And my goodness, I would guess that there's probably 10,000 hands throughout the world at least that are using that same system, and it works well. So back over to you, Dick, KC6UFM.
Thanks, Charles. I just Google it, and a lot of hits come up, so it is done. Anyway, Tim, why don't you go try it and come back in a couple of weeks and let us know how it works out. Yeah, well, that sounds much more affordable with $250 US for some kind of setup. I mean, I can go and buy a ground rod, drive it myself. It's probably $20, And I got extra wire laying all over the place here to hook up and screws and all that. Yeah, maybe it'll be an after Labor Day project. We're going camping next week for a while, so that'll be after Labor Day. Thanks a lot, Dick, for taking my second. Maybe talk to you in the morning. CCS back tonight. I will be up first tomorrow, and what about a radio club, Tim? You want to answer that question, please? Sure, I belong to Radio Amateurs of Canada. It's our national association. And two clubs, one here in Windsor, Border City Radio Club, and the other in Leamington, Spark, Sun Parlor Amateur Radio Club. And we were, last year for Field Day, we were number 1 3 Alpha station. And we hope to have taken it again this year. Back to that. Thank you, Tim. And thank you, Charles. Moving on, who else do we have with an amateur radio related question here tonight? This is Dick, WB2JPQ.
I've got a simple, quick one, I think, Dick, is AC4BR.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, the curiosity had hit me. Some of y'all has been around longer, may already know this, hopefully, but I was just curious, saw the thing again the other day about how end connectors were better than the PL239 connectors when you get up like in the UHF and higher regions. And I'm just curious, I'm guessing it's probably just with an industry standard and was too expensive to change everything, but it seems like all the dual band radios and the UHF radios still use the PL239 connectors. So I was just curious if the end connector was better. Is it just too expensive to change, or if there was another reason behind it?
USM.
Go ahead, Charles. I was going to say, because the average ham has trouble with the Type N connector. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, that is true, Dick. But, in any event, Brian, the UHF connectors, the TL259, SO239 combination, when those were initially developed way back in the 1930s, the definition of UHF was different. UHF back then started at 30 megahertz. Today, those definitions have changed, and in practice, the UHF type connectors they'll be okay at 2 meters, but at 440 they start getting pretty flaky. They have a lot of loss, they have a lot of leakage, everything else, and you're absolutely right. At 70 centimeters, you need to be going with an N-type connector. But with that said, most people, they look at their radio, they've got a dual-band radio here, or even a mono-band UHF, and they look at that radio, and it's got an SO239 hanging out the back of it. Well, ICOM and Yaesu and Kenwood, they've been building radios for a long time, so they must know what will work and what won't. No, what they know is by putting an N connector in there, their costs just went up. So it's purely a matter of cost for them, and just because Kenwood or ICOM or Yaesu or whomever puts a UHF type connector on a dual band radio, that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. In fact, if you go on YouTube, you will find dozens and dozens of videos where people show you how to open up the radio, take that UHF connector out, and replace it with an N connector. But that all said, below 2 meters, don't worry about it. It's going to work just fine. And the irritation of getting with an N-type connector is just not going to be worth the gain that you're going to get from it. Because the loss at those frequencies, the loss is about the same. And, just maybe a few hundredths of a decibel difference, and just not enough to worry about. But UHF and above, definitely need to have N connectors. Back over to you, Dick, KC6 UFM.
N5UXP with a comment. Go ahead, Angelo. Just a quick comment. One of the things that were overlooked, the UHF connector, if I'm 100% correct, is also waterproof, versus the UHF or PL259 is not. That's what makes the UHF, those connectors better to use, because they are waterproof, so to speak. That's all I have, Dick. N5UXP. Right, thank you, Angelo. And Brian, hope that answers your question, and answer our question, would you please? You belong to a radio club?
Yeah, it does. Thank you, Charles. I've been emailing him a little bit, but I thought, well, I'll just ask it on the TechNet. Try not to hassle him so much. Anyway, yeah, appreciate it. I'm actually a member of 2 clubs. I really only participate in the one, but just to, help out the ham radio community, I do actually have a second one. So, and then the gentleman there, which I've done this before too, called it a PL259 connector. It reminds me, I saw a thing today, I'll say right quick. It says, if life hands you melons, you might be dyslexic. Y'all have a good evening. AC4BR.
past the second hour here. We'll take one more question. One more amateur radio related question.
Echo 3, Sierra, Sierra Romeo.
Kilo Romeo 4, Foxtrot, Lima, Zulu.
Well, looks like VE3SSR was first in there. We'll take your question. VE3SSR.
This is Victor Echo 3, Sierra, Sierra Romeo. My name is Eugene, located in Thornhill. Well, the question is, I know like most of the producers of VHF, UHF radios, we got 2 meters and 70 centimeters. The question is, why 220 megahertz is so unpopular? So it's not that many radios that we can find having this band. So that's the question. Over.
Boy, you know, I've asked myself that same question, Eugene, 1,000 times over. Be a good question to put out to the group. Why is 220 so unpopular? At least in most parts of the country. I think out in California is a little bit more, but it just never took off. I built a 220 repeater here in Western New York 20-some years ago, and I think we had 3 users. I ended up taking it off the air, and there are several others here in Western New York that might have 1 user per month on, and just, I don't know. Let's put it out to the group. Quickly, why do you think 220 is so not popular?
And 80AY, November 8, Oscar Alpha Yankee, comment.
I think that was Dave from Huntsville, N80AY. Good evening, Dave. And
the reason I think 1 1/4 meters is so unpopular is just simply a matter of equipment availability. It's very difficult to find a radio that does 2 meters, 220 and 440. I've got a couple HTs that do that, often just because they do that, but I'm the only one in the area apparently that has a 220 radio, because I hear nothing but crickets on that repeater. I'm assuming that it's just equipment availability. And yes, I'm a member of a radio club, SWL Amateur Radio Club, and 80AY back to that.
well, there's one suggestion, of course, supply and demand. If there was a demand, they probably would supply it. Who else like to comment quickly on 220?
N1 NEW, I'd like to make a comment on that last individual.
24 XC.
Well, Mike and David, we'll let you make comments, and then we'll move on to the second part of the net tonight. Mike, you were first, N1 NEW. Pembroke Pines, good evening. And Mike, don't forget to answer our question as well.
Okay. Well, I think you kind of hit on it. How much do people want it? But it's not. I don't know how to put this. Actually, the radio equipment isn't unavailable because people don't like it. If people had adapted it, the radio equipment would be manufactured for. It is that supply and demand, which is what was said earlier. So it's just, who knows why? But the radio equipment is not there. However, had it been popular, the equipment would have been manufactured and would be there.
All right, Mike, thank you. Before you go, Mike, do you belong to a radio club?
Yeah, I do, actually, and I'm very happy with them. It's a good bunch of folks.
Thanks for your comment. Mike David, K4FXC.
Yeah, K4FXC. I think it's just the lack of originally having commercial equipment available. Now there is quite a bit of commercial equipment becoming available for the 220 band, so, and its popularity is picking up in some areas, as we go as well. Of course, with that, getting the repeater gear is getting more challenging, or I guess it goes up and down. There's been some gear that's been available, but they're certainly got some 220 repeaters down here. Got a couple of them that I'm working on right now, both of which are off the air right at the moment, but will be back on the air. But another factor is there had not been global acceptance of the 220 band. That's changed more recently, I think, where we got most acceptance in Region 1 and Region 2 to a large degree, but global acceptance had not been there. And I think originally there had been some military use of the band as well. So it's it's one of those things where it was a latecomer to ham radio, and I think that probably explains it as much as anything, that the earlier VHF and UHF bands had been there for quite a long time, and there was enough availability, and 220 was a latecomer. But now with the shortage of frequency pairs for 2 meters and 440 and other bands, I'd say the 220 popularity is starting to pick up. The main issue still is finding equivalent high quality gear, but it's definitely starting to pick up compared to what it once was, and from my perspective at least, K4FXC.
Thanks, David, and thanks, Dave. And Eugene, hope that answered your question. I guess there is no answer to the question, but how about answering our question? Do you belong to a radio club?
This is Reflector 3 ECR Sierra Eugene. Well, I belong to Contest Club of Hunting. Well, I believe that's global acceptance. That is, I think, that's the main limitation factor. And the countries, this band is not really allocated for amateur radio users. Well, but still, I have my radio, like I was, got a Lingo radio, so we got many radios made in on the West. And it's quite nice band, actually, so I really like it, and somewhere between 2 meters and 70 centimeters. And but still here in southern of Ontario is not much popular, but we have some repeaters, and whenever it's possible, and I like to use this band. It's quite nice, and it's definitely it's good. It's somewhere between 2 and 70, and it has some certain advantage. Yeah, back to that. This is Reflector 3 Sierra Romeo.
Well, thank you. And yes, it's a great, 220 is a great band. It really is. And it is too bad that it never really caught. All right, well, that's going to do it for the question and answer, the first part of the show here tonight. We had some real nice questions tonight. Looks like we got quite a number of connections here as well. That'll do it for me. I'm going to send it over to Roger, K04QMM, and he's going to start with stations with a 5 in their call sign. I don't know how far he's going to go, but that's up to him. So I'll see everybody tomorrow morning on the Open to the Blue. This is Dick, WB2JPQ.
Well, Dick, and good evening, everybody. That was fun listening to all the questions there. I enjoyed that, and thanks to Scott logging tonight. Vicky's getting a little vacation away from her laptop, so nothing wrong with that. And this gives everybody an excuse to use your radio. Answer our question of the night. Do you belong to a radio club? Pretty simple question. And I'll be your net controller for 5 through 9, unless I get bored and Scott wants me to keep on going. So
we'll take it from there. Anybody with a 5 in your call sign wants to join us tonight, come with your call sign, twice and slow. And there'll be no late and missed. No late and missed tonight. Some people have been taking advantage of Brother Scott and going a little bit too late. So let's not do that. Let's get in early tonight. So if you have a 5 in your call sign, come on. KJ5, I
Kilowatt 5, Hotel
Kilo, Mike 5, Golf Hotel.
Kilowatt 5, Hotel Lima Hotel, K5.
Well, I forgot to mention twice and slowly. A little bit more orderly. Boy, everybody came in at once there. We did get K5HLH, Harry Grants, New Mexico, and I do believe Matthew, KJ5IQU. So if you didn't hear that, come on back again. KJ5IDD, KJ5IDD. Kilo, Mike 5, Golf Hotel. Kilo, Mike 5, Golf Hotel. So yay. Alright, get in there real quick. We got via text line KI5PMI, Bill Hobbs, New Mexico. We got KM5GH, Mike, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now, don't want to miss anybody, so because there's no late and missed. So if you didn't hear your 5 in those call signs, come one more time. KJ5IDD, KJ5IDD. Yay. That last one right there, you're unreadable. Just could not read that. And sorry about that, KJ5IDD. We did have you in there, Tracy. So let's start with you. KJ5IDD, Tracy, Hobbs, New Mexico. Do you belong to a radio club?
Would be a negative. That would be a negative.
Alright, we got you in there for a negative. Thanks for getting in there, Tracy. Sorry about the roughness there. Let's move on to Harry, K5HLH, Grants, New Mexico. Good evening, Harry.
Good evening to everyone on the net. Mike and I belong to the same radio club. We're using Amboy and all-star connections to connect our club repeaters to the East Coast TechNet this evening. I'd like to make a comment about the 220 band earlier. I think it's the National Observatory. There's like a free zone, no cell phones, and you have to have a landline if you live in the area. And I think that's the one part in the whole part of the country. If you're a ham radio operator, you have to have a 220 mobile or HT or a repeater. They don't allow anything else near that place. I can't remember, but I think it's the National Observatory. Food for thought. Thanks for running the net. K5HLH. Bye.
Well, thank you for the information, Harry, and thanks for joining us this evening. This is Roger in Central Florida, KO4QMM. I'll be the controller. And let's move on to Mike, Albuquerque, New Mexico, KM5GH. Good evening, Mike. And do you belong to a radio club?
Kilo, Mike 5, Golf Hotel. Good evening, everybody. Yes, I belong to two of them. As Harry said, I belong to a club with him. He is teaching me the ropes for Cibola County, which I used to live in and be super active. Now I'm about 70 miles to the east in Albuquerque and still like to help out a little bit. And I'm active with our local Aries club here in Albuquerque, Bernalillo to be specific. So thanks a lot for running the net, and thanks for having us. Hello, Mike 5, Golf Hotel.
Oh, that's the Mike you're talking about, both of you in New Mexico. All right, I thought it was Mike in Pembroke Pines, Florida there from just looking at the log. Joining us, Mike. You have a great evening, and let's move on to Bill, Hobbs, New Mexico via text line, KI5PMI. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Roger, everybody on the net. No, I do not belong to a radio club. Hope everybody has a great night. KI5PMI, back in net.
Thanks for joining us, Bill, this evening. And that's it for the 5s. We're going to move on to the 6s. Remember, no late miss tonight, so get your call sign in early. Via text line, we got Charles, KCP6UFM, Quitay, California. Anybody else with a 6 that wants to join in and answer the question of the evening, come with your call sign.
And net control, this is Kilo 6 Alpha November. Kilo 6 Alpha November, Mike in Valley Springs.
Kilo, November 6, Golf, Sierra Golf. Kilo, November 6, Golf, Sierra Golf, Valley in Moss Beach, California.
Kilo Bravo 2, Yankee Victor Oscar. This is Kilo Bravo 2, Yankee Victor Oscar, New York. All right, we got KN6GSG, Barry, Moss Beach, California. K6AAN, Mike, Valley Springs, California. And let's start off with Charles, Quitay, California. KC6UFM. Good evening, Charles, and how's that weather out there?
Well, good evening, Roger, and everyone on the TechNet. I don't know what to say about Scott being the logger tonight. That just throws me for a complete loop. I'm not sure where I'm going from there, Roger, but thanks to all three of you, Dick and Roger and Scott, for running the net tonight and giving Vicky a little time off. But yeah, here in beautiful downtown Guata, I thought I had to break out the long pants and a sweater here today, Roger. For the first time in the last 10 days, we did not get over 100 degrees. It only made it up to 97.8 today. So it was a little chilly here in beautiful downtown Guata. But wow, what a good net so far. I mean, a lot of new users and a lot of very, very good questions and discussion on those. And looks like we got people lining up here. And yeah, that not doing the late miss, that's going to shave a lot of time off at the end there for either you or Scott, whoever ends up doing it. But Otherwise, not too much else going on here as far as the question is concerned. I do belong to 4 clubs. 3 of them are local. One of them is a remote membership. But to be totally honest, Roger, I am not active in any of them. So, I do belong to the clubs, pay my dues to where they can run their repeaters and their other programs and such, but I'm not too involved with them. So otherwise, not much else happening here. So just remind everybody about the open mic net tomorrow evening here on the ECR, and Thursday evening we are going to have the ECR Town Hall in the Zoom room. So if there's something that we should be doing here on the ECR that you'd like to see, stop by the Town Hall and let everybody know. And if you guys think you can stand up here and do Roger's job, check out the open mic night tomorrow evening. That's going to be a lot of fun as well. So everybody take care, stay safe. 7-3 KC6 USM back to net control.
Thank you, as always, Charles, for joining us. You're always a wealth of information. And yeah, I was telling somebody from New York today that, we get used to the heat down here, 95 degrees. A cloud comes over and we're like, woo, wow, it's getting nice and cool. So it don't take much for us sometimes when you get used to it. Thanks again, Charles. Talk to you later. Let's move on to Mike, Valley Springs, California. K6AAN. Good evening, Mike.
Well, good evening, everybody on the net. We're coming in on amateur wire tonight for a change. Anyway, as far as the question goes, yes, belong to 2 radio clubs, one in Lodi and one for Calaveras County, which is the county I live in. Presently an officer in the Lodi Club and have been for the last 7 years. So that's the one I spend the most time with. The other basically support the Calaveras Club because I live up there and they have a repeater up here and stuff that I use once in a while. So it's also a good group of people. Just very occupied with my job at the Lodi Club right now. Have a lot of fun being a member of the club and get a chance to mentor a lot of new hams and that sort of thing. So it's a good time, a lot of stuff going on. Anyway, we'll pass it back to you. This is K6AAN.
Thanks, Mike. Sounds like you stay pretty busy there. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us. This is KO4QMM, Roger in Central Florida. We'll move on to Barry, Moss Beach, California. KN6GSG. How about it, Barry? Do you belong to a radio club? And how's your evening?
Oh, good evening, Roger, and the rest of the net. This is Barry in Moss Beach, KN6GSG. Evening's going fine. The high today in Moss Beach was 63. Usually it's about 60 to 61, and it'll be like that for the next 2 or 3 months. We have a marine layer, and I love it. I do not like the heat. Yes, I belong to 2 radio clubs, local. One is local, Half Moon Bay Amateur Radio Club, and the other one is the Marin Amateur Radio Club, the next county. Oh, pretty far away, but I can hit their repeater, so I joined their club. And that's it. A quick comment about the 220 is I have a bunch of radios that have 220, but they're all around a half a watt only. Now, I don't know if that's an equipment problem, that they can't mix the 220 with the 70 centimeter and 2 meter. But maybe down the road they'll all be higher wattage. Anyway, thanks, Roger, for being there. Thanks for letting me check in. This is Barry KN6GSG. Back to the net.
Well, Barry, I'm always one for a little bit more wattage. Have a good evening. You got my vote. And that's it for the 6s. Anybody with a 7 in their call sign wants to join us this evening, answer the question, come with your call sign twice, slowly, and a little bit orderly.
J7, WOH, Kilo Julius 7, Whiskey Oscar Hotel.
All right, we got KJ7WOH, Marty, Troutdale, Oregon. And there was one I heard, I wrote it down here, KBYVO, something like that. Oops, sorry, that was a 2 call. I was told that was a 2 call. You'll have to wait till we call the 2. Yeah, it'll be coming up in a little while. So let's go to Marty, KJ7WOH.
Evening, Roger. Yes, sir. I am a member of a club. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening. KJ7WOH.
Thank you, Marty, for joining us, and we got your answer. Let's move on to K7KSL. QSL, is that Kevin? Is there somebody with a K7 that we missed? I reckon not. Let's move on to the 8. Anybody with an 8 in their call sign, come twice and slow for this evening's question of the evening.
Whiskey Delta 8, Papa India Charlie. Whiskey Delta 8, Papa India Charlie.
Alright, from the bottom up, WD8PIC, Bob, Sylvania, Ohio, W8CRW via text line, CR, Unionville, PA, KA8BYU, Roy, Blaisdell, New York. Any other 8? Alright, Roy in Blaisdell, New York, via text line, KA8BYU. Good evening, Roy, and do you belong to a radio club?
Hey, everybody, at the present time, I have in the past, right now, presently, anyone.
All right, Roy, we got you down for a no. Thanks for joining us this evening. Let's move on to CR, Unionville, PA, W8CRW. Good evening, CR.
Good evening, Roger, and all on the net. No, I do not belong to any club. Back to net.
All right, Alrighty, we got another no. Thanks for joining SCR. Have a great evening. And let's move on to Bob, Sylvania, Ohio, WD8PIC. Good evening, Bob.
Good evening. And please pray, I've got a doctor appointment on Thursday. I have fluid in the legs. I've been managing it with diet, but it's getting pretty bad to where it's getting difficult even to manage it with an extremely low salt diet and diuretics. So please pray about that for me, if they can figure it out. Yes, and I'll keep my feet up and do all the stuff I have to. Yes, I do belong to one club. You're doing a great job. It rained here, and there's more rain on the way overnight, so we're going to send that to the east, wherever it goes. And there is a slight cold front coming through, but then it's going to get hot again for the weekend. I know you don't want to hear that, neither do I, but I'm just stating facts. Back to net, WD8PIC, near Toledo, Sylvania, Ohio.
No worries, Bob. Always good to hear from you. And a lot of people heard you. I'm sure hope the prayers are heard. You have a great evening. All right, that's it for the 8th. This is KO4QMM. We're moving on to the 9s. If you have a 9 in your call sign, come twice and slow.
Kilo Delta 9, Uniform Foxtrot, Quebec, KD9UFQ.
On this Reflector, Victor, Kilowatt 1, JC Tomato, VK1, JC Tomato, VK1 JT here in Canberra. Kilo 9 Sierra Hotel Tango, Kilo 9 Sierra Hotel Tango, Bruce. Alright, we got K9SHT, Bruce, Port St. Lucie, Florida. VK1, you're going to have to hang on till we get to the 1s there in a little bit. And we got 9Y4DX, Bertrand, Trinidad and Tobago. And KD9UFQ, Larry, Wisconsin. It's up to you, Larry. KD9UFQ. You belong to a radio club.
Good evening to everybody on the net. Yes, I do belong to one radio club, and it's about 30 miles away in another town, because we have no active club here in our own local region. And I've enjoyed the conversation tonight, and some interesting topics dealing with Leighton and so on. So, KD9UFQ, back to net.
Well, thanks for joining us, Larry. Glad you're here to enjoy it. And let's move on to Bertrand, Trinidad, Tobago. Good evening, Bertrand. 9Y4DX. Are you back home from Virginia? Over.
Roger, that's control. This is 9Y4 Bertrand. I am looking at the time in Quebec, Canada. I am here spending a few days before I head back down to the east. Well, for the well and it's cool because it was a bit warm here in Canada. We measured in Celsius almost 35 in Quebec. Well,
With respect to the question, yes, I am a member of the club in Trinidad and Tobago Amateur Radio Society. So that's it from me. See you next control. Beautiful QM. This is 994.
Always a pleasure talking to you, my friend. Sounded like you're in Canada now, and you just keep going up there. You're getting into the cooler and cooler air probably in the morning. Hope you enjoy it, my friends. And that's it. Let's move on to Bruce, Port St. Lucie, Florida, K9SHT. Good evening, Bruce, and do you belong to a radio club? Everybody in the net, K9SHT, and for the gentleman asking for prayers, I gave you one. Hopefully it works out. And unless you count the ARRL, Dan, I've also been out of amateur radio for a while, and I'm getting back into it. So I'm going to slowly start getting into one or more clubs here locally. Back to net control, K9SHT. QSL, thanks for joining us, Bruce, and I'm sure Bob appreciates it. And that's it for the 9th. I guess I'm going to hand it over to my buddy Scott, and he might have the Godfather login for him, not sure. But I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening, and thank you for letting me be your net controller. This is KO42MM, Roger in Central Florida. I'm going to hand you over to W2BLT, Scott in Buffalo, New York.
Oh, thank you, Roger, and fine job. And like Roger said before, there is going to be no late and miss tonight. No late and missed. Right now, let's take anybody with a 0 in your call sign. If you have a 0, please come now.
0 BBF. KC0 BBF.
November 0, Mike, Sierra, Sierra.
N0 TIS. N0 TIS.
Whiskey 0 Sierra Victor Hotel. Whiskey 0 Sierra Victor Hotel. W0 SBH Sean and Carlos or Anderson.
Hey, let's hold it up there for a moment. Let me recognize KC0 BF Steve, N0 MSS Ross, N0 TIS. That should be Otis. I typed O instead of 0. That works better. And then it looks like we had W0SVH. And that would be Sean in Anderson, Texas. Anyone else with a 0 in your call sign? Last call for the 0s. Please come now with your call sign. Oops, we have one via the text. We got KN0 LZE. Is there anyone else with a 0 in your call sign? Please come now. Well, then we'll run these. Let's go to the top of the list to Steve, KC0 BBS in Lincoln, Nebraska. Good evening. And the question of the night is, do you belong to an amateur radio club?
Scott, everyone on the net, KC0 BBS. Yes, I do. It's the LARC Amateur Radio Club here in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm a full-time member. Not much going on here, just enjoying a nice evening.
You guys have a good evening. As always, it's good seeing you in the Zoom room. Probably see you in the Zoom room tomorrow. Back to that. C0BBF.
Alrighty, Steve, you have a great evening and thanks for joining us. Ross, N0, MSS in Wahpeton, North Dakota. Good evening, Ross.
Good evening, Scott, and everybody on the net. I do belong to 2 clubs, so you can put me down for a yes. Hope everybody has a good evening. From M0MSS.
Thanks for joining us, Ross. Always a pleasure. Let's go to N0 at TIS. Otis from Beaumont, Texas. Good evening, Otis.
Good evening, Scott. One of my favorites. I knew you'd get that call sign right. I watched you type it. Anyway, great evening. Let's see. First things first. Bob, we're praying for you. You're on our list. Have no fear, my friend. The question, am I part of a club? No. I'm just full-time with, broadcasting and everything else, and I just don't have a lot of time. But anyway, not that I don't want to, I just don't have the time. So anyway, I'm gonna turn it back over to you, Scott. You are one of my faves.
I try, I don't type too well. Zeros and O's, they look pretty close, don't they? Have a great evening, Otis. Thanks for joining us. This is W2BLT. Let's go to W0SVH. Sean out in Anderson, Texas. Good evening, Sean, and do you belong to a radio club? Good evening, Net Control and everybody on the net. Hopefully everybody's having a great evening. I do not belong to any group or club whatsoever. I'm affiliated, or I converse with a handful. I own 2 repeaters, and so I don't want to tie myself and say, oh, well, I'm doing something for one club that I'm not doing for another. So I don't join any of them, but I definitely help all of them out that I can, and try to enjoy, conversations with everybody. Back to you, W0SVH. Well, thank you. I appreciate you joining us tonight. Have yourself a good night. Next up, KN0LZE, Todd, on Redstone Arsenal, Alabama. Good morning.
Good morning, KN0LZE. I am a part of 2 local clubs. They're usually courtesy memberships that you get when you get your, pass one of your tests or whichever, and it's up to obviously the member to renew each year. But 2 memberships.
Alrighty, thanks for joining us, Todd. Appreciate it. Okay, next up, the ones. If you have a 1 in your call sign, please come now. If you have anybody with a 1 in your call sign, time for you to come now with a 1 in your call sign. Well, with nothing heard, let's go to the 2s. Via text line, we have KD2JPP, Bob, WA2UUS, Joel, W2AJR, Andy, PK2DY, Robert, W2RBC, Randy, and W2EM, Chuck. Who else do we have tonight looking to join us? Has a 2 in your call sign. Please come with your call sign twice and slowly.
KD2V and U. KD2V and U.
KE2CCK. KE2CCK.
N2BH. Sorry, I was on the toilet. Victor Kilowatt 1. Juicy Tomato. K1 Juicy Tomato. Canberra, Australia.
N2BH. W2KJV. W2KJV. Alrighty, let me hold it up there for a moment. Let me recognize who I got. I got W2KJV, Tony. I got KD2VNU, Derby Dan, KE2CCK, Matt, N2BH, Bill, ZS2EC, ZS2EC. That's buddy Tom over in South Africa. Had a station in there that ended in Juliet Tango. Could you come back with that call sign twice, please?
Sorry, I was on the toilet when you called for the ones. It is Victor Kilowatt 1 Juicy Tomato VK1JT Canberra.
Well, you know something, I'm going to let you in, John, but next time take that HT in with you. I do in the morning, it works. Anyone else with a 2 in your call sign, please come now. Nothing heard. Let's take this one, VK1JT. Good evening, John, over in Australia, and well, it'd be probably good afternoon to you now. Do you belong to a radio club?
No, I don't. Sadly, I'm transport challenged, and I've actually put out emails on the local club mailing list to ask for a lift, and never got a response. So it just goes to show how people are, but no, that's pretty much the only reason.
Alrighty, John. Glad we could get you in there and have yourself a good rest of the day. Okay, let's go to KD2JPP, Bob in Gallatin, Tennessee. Good evening, Bob.
Hey, good evening, Scott, and everybody else on the net. I do not belong to a radio club. That's a no for me, whoever's doing the logging. Everybody have a good night, good week. Back to the net.
Thank you, Bob. You have yourself a fine evening. This is W2BLT. Next up, WA2UUS, Joel in Buffalo. Good morning. Good evening.
Anybody else on the net? With regard to the question tonight, I guess it was an awakening for me when I returned to ham radio on all the new technology and new equipment and everything. And that was in 2012. It was like waking up, like Rip Van Winkle, waking up 20 years later. And so I joined clubs over time. I'm not as active as I used to be in some of them, but I learned a lot, and I needed to know a lot because to advance my license, I had to understand all the changes that came about in the years that I was away from ham radio. So, and the people were very welcoming here in the Buffalo area, and I learned a lot, and I was exposed to all the different modes, and I appreciated all the help I got. I wish everyone to be well and to be safe. Thank you, Scott and Vicki. Have a good evening.
All right, thank you, Joel. Appreciate you joining us this evening, and enjoy the rest of it. W2HAR, Andy in Cheektowaga, New York. Good evening, Andy.
Good evening, Scott. Good evening, everybody on the net. Yeah, I belong to a couple of clubs. And I know it's none of my business, Scott, but what happens at a late in this tonight? 7-3, all. Have a great week.
Well, over the last few weeks, that's gotten to be a crutch that was taken advantage of, and they can call them with their call district now. Have a great evening, Andy, and we'll talk to you again soon. VK2DY, Robert in Kellyville Ridge, New South Wales, Australia. Good afternoon.
Hey, Dick. Good afternoon. This is Robert, VK2DY in northwestern Sydney. We're just 12:06 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon here. 20 degrees Celsius, sun is shining, sky is blue. It's beginning to feel like spring, and I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, I belong to a state radio club. The state of New South Wales has amateur radio in New South Wales, and I've been a member of them for quite a few years. I've been a member on and off of the closest local club to me, which is the Hornsby and District Amateur Radio Club, Haddart. And I've been a member of them different times. My membership, though, is not current, but I have been a member of them. VK2DY. Back to them.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate you joining us. Next up, W2RBC, Randy in West Seneca, New York. Good evening, Randy.
Good evening, Scott, Dick, and everyone on the TechNet. Yes, I belong to 2 local radio clubs. I'm not a very active member in either. I do like reading their publications and providing support through doing so. Back to net control, 73 to all, W2RBC.
Thank you, Randy. You have yourself a good evening, and thanks for joining us. Next up, Chuck, W2EM, Lancaster, New York. Good evening, Chuck.
Yes, I belong to a couple of clubs, one up here in the Buffalo area, and when I'm in Florida for the winter, I belong to Highland County Amateur Radio Club down there, so it's all good. So back to net, W2EM.
All right, thank you, Chuck. Appreciate you joining us, and have a great evening. Next up, KD2, VNU, Derby Dan, one of our team members as well. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Scott. Good evening to everybody. I'll do the short answer, yes. I'll return back to that. Everybody have a great evening. KD2 VNU.
All righty, have a good evening, Dan. Thanks for joining us. KE2, CCK, Matt in Frankfurt, New York. Good evening, Matt. Do you belong to a radio club?
Yeah, good evening. And, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. I got a couple here in upstate New York that I belong to in a couple different counties. One at one house where I live, and one at the other house where I also live. And, yeah, I belong down to Tennessee, and I was looking at one in West Virginia, and one also in Syracuse, New York. So I try to stay busy, so, and up to date with things. So anyhow, this is KE2CCK, back to net control.
All Alrighty, thank you, Matt. Have yourself a great evening, and thanks for stopping by tonight. Next up, one of your hosts on the Morning Brew, Bill, N2BH, Palmyra, New York. Good evening, Bill.
Hey, good evening, Scott and everybody. Yes, I do. I belong to one organized dues-paying club, and then I belong to two different groups, one of which is the Rock City group, and we're having our Ham Fest coming up on August 23rd, N2BH.
Alrighty, thank you, Bill. Have yourself a great evening. Thanks for joining us. Let's go over to the Eastern Cape of South Africa to ZS2EC. My buddy Tunis, good evening.
Well, it seems like you've got the pronunciation right there of my name. Good evening, good morning to everybody. Local time here is 4:11 a.m. Wednesday morning. And the last time I looked at the temperature was 9 degrees Celsius. Yes, I belong to 3 clubs and not attending meetings, but I intend to renew my membership every year. Back to you, there is to Echo Charlie.
Alrighty, thank you. And you would think, after this many years, that I would learn to pronounce that name properly. It's only right. Thanks for joining us, and have yourself a great evening. And last on this list, W2KJV. Tony, one of our team members down in Homosassa, Florida. Good evening, Tony.
Good evening, Scott. Good evening, everyone on the TechNet tonight. Scott, no, I do not belong to a club, ham radio club down here. Back to net control, back to W2BLT. This is W2KJV.
Thanks, Tony. You and Mary have a great evening. Alrighty, folks, this is W2BLT. Next up, let's go to the threes. If you have a 3 in your call sign, please come now.
WB3GTM. Whiskey Baker 3, Golf, Tango, Mike.
Echo 3, Sierra Romeo.
Victor Echo 3, India, Quebec Uniform, V3IQU. Alrighty, we'll hold it up there for a moment, recognizing Reg, V3IQU up in Brampton. We got V3SSR, Eugene, and WB3GTM, Mike in Westford, Vermont. Anyone else with a 3 in your call sign? Last call for the 3s. Please come now.
Kilo Charlie 3, Foxtrot Golf Delta.
VK3
Kilo Charlie 3, Foxtrot Golf Delta.
VK3AWA.
Alrighty, recognize VK3AWA, Daryl, and KC3FGD, Ray. Let's go to the top of this list. The question of the evening, everyone, is, do you belong to a radio club? Let's go to WB3GTM, Mike in Westford, Vermont. Good evening.
Good evening, Scott, and everybody on the net. This is Mike, WB3GTM. Good to hear everyone tonight. In regards to the question, no, I do not belong to any clubs at this time, unless you consider the ARRLA club, which I'm a life member of. Hey, thanks for running the net, and thank you for checking me in. Back to net control. This is WB3GTM.
Well, thank you for joining us, Mike. Appreciate it, and you have yourself a good evening. Let's go to DE3 SSR. Eugene, good evening.
Good evening, everybody on the net. Victor Echo 3 Sierra Sierra Romeo. My name is Eugene. I'm located in Thornhill near Toronto. Well, when it comes to the club, we got a local club, Victor Echo 3 Yankee Alpha Alpha. It's mostly work CW. And I also belong to Contest Club of Ontario, CCO. Back to net. This is VCSSR.
Alrighty, thanks for joining us, Eugene. Appreciate it. DE3 IQU, good evening, Reg.
Good evening to you and all around the net tonight, that's for sure. I've been away from the net for a little while, so I'm not totally familiar with all those that checked in, but good evening to one and all. And let's see, as for the question, well, I belong to radio clubs pretty much all my ham radio life. And but I think this year I neglected to rejoin the local club here. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. I'll give that a little more attention when I speak to those in the club here. Anyhow, not too much else going on. Hope you're okay there, Dick, if you're listening, and all those around the net. We had a beautiful day here today, except for a very, very brief sprinkle, and I do mean a little tiny sprinkle of rain. And but the rest of the day was lovely. So back to you, V3I, kill you.
Alrighty, Reg, and I'm sure Dick heard you. Have yourself a great evening. Thanks for joining us. Let's go down to our buddy Ray, KC3FGD in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. Good evening, Ray.
Hey, good evening, Scott, and everyone on the net. Yeah, great to hear your voice this evening. Yes, I belong to two of them, the Masonic Village Radio Club here, right in the village, and the Southern Pennsylvania Amateur Radio Club. Hey, have a great evening. Had a big harvest today in the gardens. KC3FGD, back to Scottish Net Control.
Thank you for joining us, Ray. We appreciate it, and have a good evening. And last one on the threes, a VK3AWA, Daryl over in Paradise Beach in Australia. Good afternoon.
Good evening, Scott, and good evening to those listening on the net. And the answer to the question is yes, I belong to the Eastern Zone Amateur Radio Club. Back to you, Scott, and thanks for being there.
Thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure, Daryl. Alrighty, now we're going to go to the last call district. We got the fours. See, we got a few via the text here, and we'll acknowledge those first. We have KK4 SED Les, KQ4 GKO John and River, KO4 GLY Chris, KO4 FRR Joe, and WE4 AU Tom. Who else do we have with the 4 in your call sign? Please come now, twice and slowly.
Romeo 4 Bravo Delta Juliet, Kilo Romeo 4 Bravo Delta Juliet, Charlie.
Whiskey Bravo 4 Golf Bravo India. Whiskey Bravo 4 Golf Bravo India. In and out, please.
OSU, not for Ohio State University, on Wisconsin.
Romeo 4 Foxtrot Lima Zulu.
W4PPX. W4PPX. November 4, Oscar Alpha Golf. November 4, Oscar Alpha Golf. Alrighty, let's hold it up there. Recognize again 4 OAG Mike, W4 PPX Don, and 4 OSU Jerry, WB4 GBI Tim in Knoxville, Tennessee was in and out. Thanks for joining us. We had KR4 BDJ Charles, WE4AU Tom. There was one in there that only gave me the call sign once, and that's why I didn't catch it. If I didn't acknowledge you, please come with your call sign twice and slowly.
KR4 FLZ. KR4 FLZ.
There we go, Brandon. We got it this time. Anyone else with a 4 in your call sign, please come now. KD4RHL. KD4RHL.
KC4ZTK. KC4ZTK.
Kilo Romeo
W4HKL. W4HKL. In and out, please.
Kilo Romeo 4, Echo X-Ray Victor. Alrighty, let's hold up there for a moment. I got a couple here. We got W4HKL. Steve was in and out. We had a station KR4 XXP or EXK. That last station was a KR4. Could you come back with that call sign again? Nothing heard. We had KC4 ZTK or something like that. Was that a correct call sign? ZTK?
That's correct. Kilo Charlie 4, Zulu Tango Kilo.
Alrighty, thank you. We got KD4 RHL, Ernest, KR4 FLZ, Brandon. The rest of them I acknowledged. That's the last call for the 4s. Anyone else with a 4, please come twice and slowly. Alrighty, with nothing heard, let's run this list. Let's go to the top. This is W2BLT, KK4 SED Les in Claremont, Florida. Good evening, Les, and the question of the evening, do you belong to a radio club?
Yeah, Matt. Les here in Claremont. Yes, I do. I belong to the Larry here in our town. So, hey, good net tonight. All the good questions at the beginning. KK4 SED back to net.
Thanks for joining us, Les, and you have a great rest of the evening. Let's go to KQ4 GKO. John in New Bern, North Carolina. Good evening.
AQ4 GKO. Is anyone there? Moving right along, KQ4 GLY, Chris from Parrish, Florida. Good evening.
I never belong to that. No, I do not belong to a radio club. Back to you, KQ4 GLY.
Well, thanks for joining us. You have a good evening there, Chris. Next up, one of our team members down from Sorrento, Florida, KO4FRR. Good evening, Joe.
Well, good evening, Scott. This is Joe, KO4FRR. Yes, I am here in Leesburg, Florida. Talk to you guys after the net, and have a good day.
All right, thank you, Joe. Have yourself a fine evening, and thanks for joining us. WE4AU, Tom in Greenville, Alabama. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening to the net. This is WE4AU from Greenville, Alabama. Yes, I do belong to two clubs. I belong to the Montgomery Amateur Radio Club in Montgomery, Alabama, and the K4TNS Jim Bell Wireless Association in Greenville, Alabama. Great net. Glad I got a chance to check in with you, WE4AU.
Thank you, Tom. Don't be a stranger. Appreciate you being here with us tonight. KR4 BDJ Charles in Melrose, Florida. Good evening, Charles.
Good evening to the net. The answer to your question is yes. I do belong to the Gainesville, Florida Radio Club, which is in Waldo, Florida. Over.
All right, sounds good. Have yourself a fine evening. Let's go to Jerry, N4 OSU. It's Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Good evening, Jerry.
Good evening, one and all. This is Jerry, N4 OSU. No, I do not belong to a club. How do you copy this here? N4 OSU. We're down on your final, sir. Thank you.
That sounds pretty good, Jerry. Glad to see that repeater back up there again. Have yourself a good evening. Next up, W4 PPX, Don, Hollywood, Florida. Good evening.
Good evening, Net Control and everybody on the net tonight. You put me down for yes. I belong to Davie Cooper City Amateur Radio Club in Davie, Florida.
Sounds good, Don. Thanks for joining us. N4OAG, Mike in Coral Springs, Florida. Good evening.
Good evening. To all on the net, and thanks to all the operators to keep these repeaters linked together. The answer is, short answer, no. Back to net.
All righty, Mike, you have a great evening down there in Coral Springs. KR4FLZ, Brandon in Winter Springs, Florida. Good evening.
Good evening, Scott, and everyone on the net. Not currently. I'm relatively new to ham, but the club that did proctor my exam was the Lamar's, the Lake Monroe Amateur Radio Society here in Central Florida. Everyone was super nice and welcoming, and I will probably be joining soon. So, yeah, not currently, but I will be joining soon. KR4 FLZ, back to Net Control.
All right, thanks for joining us, Brandon, and don't be a stranger. Here every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Next up, KD4RHL, Ernest in Bronson, Florida. Good evening, Ernest.
Good evening, sir, and to the net. The answer to tonight's question is no, sir. I am not currently affiliated with the club. Back to you, sir. 84 RHL.
Alrighty, thanks, Ernest. Appreciate you joining us, and have a great evening. And last one on this list, KC4ZTK. Robert out in Houston, Texas. Looks like you're new to the system. Welcome.
KC4ZTK, if you mean the wind system, no, I joined a year ago or something. But anyway, not a member of any club except I've got an application into Cottonwood that runs a bunch of link for feeders here in Texas. KC4ZTK.
Well, no, I didn't mean the wind system. You're on the East Coast Reflector. And looks like you don't have an email on file, so we can't get you out a welcome letter. If you want to make that public, why we'll get you out a welcome letter, explain what the system's all about to you. Have yourself a great evening. Well, that's going to do it for tonight, folks. I'd like to thank everybody that stopped by, everybody with questions, everybody that had answers and comments for those questions. On behalf of WB2JPQ and Roger, KO4QMM, this is Scott, W2BLT, wishing everybody a great evening, and we'll see you all next week. 7-3s, everyone.